Y'all, a Nayte, a Joe. She needs to pick Brandon J. This man stole my heart in less than 15 minutes. Hi everyone, my name is Dimitri and welcome back to DimitriTube. The Bachelorette, night 6. Let's talk about it. As always, if you're enjoying my videos, please go ahead and pound that like button, pound that subscribe button, and ring that notification bell. I'm a growing YouTuber and the likes and subscribes really help me out. Normally for these reviews, I go in chronological order, but this week I'm starting with Brandon J, because this is my channel and I do what I want. Brandon J was the star of this episode and he is the moment. So we're just gonna go ahead and talk about him first. Let's dive in and get started. So Brandon J finally got a one-on-one with Michelle. Y'all, I love Brandon J. This entire season, I haven't really been rooting for anyone, but now I'm rooting for Brandon J. I don't think he's gonna win, but I'm gonna talk about that more later in the video. Let's talk about this date. For the date, Brandon and Michelle go and get ice cream, and then they take a tour of Michelle's childhood home. While Brandon and Michelle were driving, they pass an ice cream stand, and Brandon J is like, are we getting ice cream? And y'all, he sounded like a little kid. Also, Michelle took a bite into her ice cream, but she took a bite with her actual teeth. I thought that was kind of weird. Does anyone bite into their ice cream like that? I can't bite into my ice cream like that. It's just way too cold for my teeth. And I finally figured it out. Brandon's personality reminds me of one of the characters in the movie You Got Served. If you know, you know. You Got Served is a movie that came out in 2004. It's about a Los Angeles dance crew that battles other dance crews, and it was really popular mainly because B2K was in it. If you've seen the movie, you probably know what I'm talking about, but if not, it doesn't matter, moving on. So after they're done eating ice cream, they drive to Michelle's childhood home and Michelle gives Brandon a tour. So technically, this is Brandon J and Michelle's first date, but to give someone a tour of your childhood home for a first date, that is really weird. Michelle shows Brandon her room and Brandon says, I rolled up to you on the first day on my bed and now I'm sitting in yours. Wow. Talk about full circle. After that, Michelle gives Brandon a pair of her dad's swim trunks and then they go into the hot tub. And while Brandon and Michelle are in the hot tub making out, Michelle's parents show up and the parents act like they didn't know they were there. Okay, so let's unpack all of this. First of all, Brandon J probably got the worst one-on-one all-day date I've seen on this show, maybe ever, but he still managed to make a good impression and I loved watching this entire date. Next, this date just felt so juvenile. I felt like I was watching two 16-year-olds in a rom-com, especially at that point when Michelle was sneaking around the house and she told Brandon her parents weren't home. And lastly, Michelle's parents knew they were there. I don't believe for 1 second that they were caught by surprise. There is no way Michelle's parents did not see a cameraman, a lighting guy, a sound guy, a producer, one of the extra cars or vans outside. Like, there's no way they missed all of that and were caught by Michelle and Brandon by surprise. Then after that, Brandon and Michelle sit and have a chat with her parents. So the conversation was a little rocky at first, but the conversation flowed and it felt really genuine to me. I think her parents really like Brandon. And then after that, Michelle steps away for a second and Brandon asks Michelle's parents for their blessing in a marriage. Now, when Brandon did this, it was very jarring and very out of the blue because it looked like we just watched two 16-year-olds on a date sneaking around their parents' house. Also, this is still technically their first date and Brandon is asking for a blessing in a wedding. In the real world, this would be sociopath type of stuff. But in Bachelor world, this tracks and kind of makes sense. Because traditionally on this show, it's supposed to end in a proposal. And if you think about it, there's only a couple weeks left. So they are close to a proposal. And next week is hometowns and Michelle is about to meet Brandon's parents. And it's very much on track with the normal trajectory of the show. I guess it's just very off-putting because we just really haven't seen much of Michelle and Brandon together on this show. Okay, now we're moving on to the night portion of the group date. I like Michelle's dress. but I just don't love it. While on the one-on-one, Brandon J tells Michelle that he really wished she could meet his grandpa, but unfortunately he passed away. Brandon J says his grandpa was his best friend, helped with relationships and friendships, showed him what love is and what you need to put in to keep a strong relationship. And did anyone notice that Michelle says grandpa kind of weird? So I say it like grandpa, but Michelle says like grandpa. How do y'all say it? I definitely say it like how it's spelled, grandpa. And then after that, Brandon J gives Michelle a bracelet and he tells her that his mom made it, and she said, if I truly think that you're the one, then give her this bracelet, because if I see it on her, we'll give her the same love we give you. Now, this was the ugliest bracelet I've ever seen in my life, but the meaning behind the bracelet was so beautiful, we have no choice but to stan. And then shortly after that, Brandon J tells Michelle, I'm falling in love with you. And I know it's been so quick, but I am. And I'm not gonna leave here today without telling you my true feelings. Y'all, we have not seen romance like this on The Bachelor since Rachel's skydiving accident.
Puts everything into perspective. Are you okay for real though?
Yeah, I think so.
My heart hurt when I was watching you, you know what I mean? Because you weren't moving for a second. And I was like, you don't realize how much you care until it's like there's a chance that you could be gone, you know?
Y'all, a Nayte, a Joe. She needs to pick Brandon J. This man stole my heart in less than 15 minutes. She needs to go ahead and close up shop and just pick Brandon J. Brandon J has not gotten a lot of time with Michelle, but the time he gets, he makes the most of it. And on top of that, Brandon J puts in so much effort to try to win over Michelle. His amount of effort, to me, leaves all the other guys in the dust. And Brandon is trying to woo Michelle. He's trying to make her feel special. He's trying to romance her. And honestly, we haven't seen a lot of romance on this show in a while because a lot of the contestants just come on it for clout. So when a contestant comes on this show truly looking for love and actually tries to romance the lead, it's such a breath of fresh air to see. And it's a nice reminder that this actually exists on this show. Now, past all of that, I love Brandon J. I'm rooting for him to win. I want him to win, but I don't think he will. I still think that Nayte is gonna win. Just the way she looks at Nayte and the way she interacts with Nayte, it just seems like she's over the top infatuated with him, so I still think he's gonna win. Now, the goal of this show is to eventually get married, and if Michelle wants to get married, I think her best bet is with Brandon J. I honestly think she should take a chance with Brandon J. When it comes to Nayte, I do think he could win the show, and I think if he does win the show, he would propose, but I don't think Nayte and Michelle would make it to a wedding. If things get difficult in Michelle and Nayte's relationship, I just really don't see Nayte being the one to try to make things work out. Also, I get the vibe that Nayte is gonna wanna enjoy the fame for a little bit, whereas for Michelle, it's not that important to her. Now, when it comes to Joe, I think Joe is a better choice than Nayte, but I would still rather Michelle pick Brandon J over Joe. Something about Joe is just not adding up for me. Let me explain real quick. So one of the worst questions you can ask someone who's single is, why are you single? But that question kind of rears its ugly head when I think of Joe, because Joe lives in Minnesota and he was practically a celebrity there for quite a few years. He was Mr. Minnesota basketball. He played for University of Minnesota. He was on track to be in the NBA. So he was practically a celebrity there. And I know Joe was going through depression and figuring out his life after his basketball career ended, but I still feel like something is missing there. And on top of that, he hasn't let himself go. He's still super fit and he's really good looking. Even Michelle was sliding into his DMs before the show started. So I can only imagine how many other women in Minnesota are sliding into his DMs. So something there is just really not adding up for me. And not only that, I feel like Michelle likes Joe more than he likes her. So I just don't feel like Joe is the best choice. And just one more thing I want to say about this before I move on. I am so excited to see the fantasy suites for this season. Normally on The Bachelor, the guys have no issue taking 3 different women to the fantasy suites, but on The Bachelorette, the women often try to decide who's gonna win during fantasy suites or like right before, because they don't want to seem like they're taking 3 men to a fantasy suite on national television. And Michelle is from small town, wholesome, middle America, Minnesota. So I'm really not sure if she has it in her to take 3 different men to the fantasy suite. I'm excited to see how that's gonna go down. Okay, I'm glad I got that out of the way first. Now I'm going to talk about the rest of the episode, and I'm just going to start in chronological order. Okay, so the episode started with Michelle bringing in a few of her students to decide who gets the next one-on-one date, and personally, I thought this was the biggest waste of 10 minutes on the show. So far, overall, this has been a good season. Kind of slow, but still a good season. And I will say, Michelle and the guys are kind of boring. Like, there has not been a whole lot of meat to these storylines, so I really think they brought in these kids just to kill some time. So to impress these kids, Clayton builds a fort, and honestly, I thought a producer told him to do that. Like, I do not genuinely think that was Clayton's idea. OOTE tells one of the kids that he wants a big African wedding, and y'all, Africa is a big continent. I don't understand why he didn't just say Nigerian wedding. Also, I'm not completely sure if OOTE is Nigerian, but that's just my guess. If you know, let me know below in the comments. So the first one-on-one date is with Clayton, and him and Michelle eat pizza and Twizzlers in the limo. They actually had a whole spread of food available. So I personally wouldn't have wanted to eat in the limo because I'd be afraid of spilling on my outfit, but to each his own. And then after that, they go to a museum. I think it's a natural history museum. The date was cute, but they have zero connection. At one point in the date, Clayton and Michelle are embracing, and Clayton says, "I feel safe with Michelle." I thought that was interesting because I feel like you don't normally hear a guy telling a girl that. Normally you hear a girl telling a guy that. So then we go to the night portion of the date, and Clayton tells Michelle he was chasing after things to impress others, and he put off searching for a significant other because he wanted to please others. Now, Clayton opening up was just so vague and so generic, I really didn't get anything from it. So Michelle is debating whether or not to give Clayton a rose, and she says in a confessional, "I have to make difficult decisions." Michelle, you are fooling no one. Nothing was difficult about this decision. You don't like him. So Michelle does not give Clayton the rose, and when she explains to him why, it sounded like she was a robot reading off cue cards.
And I don't feel that I'm able to get there with you in time.
And Clayton looked happy to go, to be honest. So then after that, he's doing his exit, and ABC plays this super dramatic music, and then Clayton gives this dramatic monologue, and it was just way too over the top given the situation. Like, we all know Michelle and Clayton had zero connection, but the way ABC is editing it, it's like it's the breakup of the season. And at this point, it really started turning into the Clayton show, and I was just like, we don't care. ABC, you're giving us Clayton, but we want to see more Brandon J. It really felt like Clayton was trying to win a daytime Emmy or something. But the most shocking part of this entire situation is that Martin stayed longer than Clayton did. I didn't see that coming on my 2021 bingo card. Okay, now we're moving on to the group date. The guys and Michelle go to a Minnesota dairy farm, and I would have been mad. For the date, they milk cows, they play with baby cows, and they shovel manure. At one point on the date, Michelle clocks Martin for not wanting anything to do with the cows, but I would have been like that too. Like, I don't want to touch these cows. So don't get me wrong, if I was on that date, I would have made the best of it, and I would have had a smile on my face, but damn right, when I got back to the suite, I would read her and I would read the date all up in the confessional. Like, legit, Michelle has these guys shoveling manure on a date. I would have been pissed. And nothing else really happens on this date. At one point, Nayte throws his back out, and I thought he was faking it. What did y'all think? Let me know below in the comments. Also, while they're milking the cows, Rick says,
"It's almost like driving a car, you know, 8 and 12, but just keep going. There's other things to think about, but I like to think about driving a car."
Okay, I'ma head out. That was the last straw for me. I really don't like Rick anymore. Like, that was just so weird. Now we're moving on to the night portion of the group date, and Michelle tells the guys, make sure you leave it all here because this is the last group date that we're gonna have. And y'all, I hate when the leads do this. If a contestant wants to tell the lead something, I feel like it should happen more organically. I hate when the lead is like, this is your last chance at a rose, pour your heart out now. It's just not a good vibe. So the first one-on-one we have is with Nayte and Michelle. Nayte tells Michelle that growing up, his dad was like, don't talk to me about girls, do not introduce me to any girls. But then he says introducing Michelle would be easy. And then Nayte says that he's falling for Michelle. So I really wish we got a little more context or a little more explanation for this, because growing up, my parents were like kind of the same way. Don't introduce anyone unless you plan on marrying them. But for Nate's explanation, it just seemed like don't introduce us to anyone ever. So I really wish he could have explained that a little more. And Nayte ends up getting the group date rose, which was not surprising at all. Next, we have a one-on-one with Joe. Joe tells Michelle that his grandparents owned and ran a dairy farm, and he says he's very family oriented. Now that just sounded like some backwoods Minnesota to me. I wasn't very impressed, but I think Michelle enjoyed it. So then after that, we pan to a conversation between Martin and Rick. So Martin tells Rick that he doesn't think that Michelle listens to him and says that there was a miscommunication between them. Martin also says that Michelle has not worked through her childhood trauma, and that's very immature of her. And then Martin has a one-on-one with Michelle, and he tells Michelle that he wants her to see his hometown. So then after that, we have a one-on-one with Olu and Michelle. Olu overheard the conversation between Martin and Rick, and then Olu tells Michelle about the bad things Martin had said about her. Now this was a little crazy to me because Olu has not had a one-on-one with Michelle, and this is the last group date and his last chance to make an impression on Michelle, and he uses the time to drag Martin. That is not using your time wisely. So then after that, Michelle says she wants to address the situation, and she also says she would lose sleep if she did not address this situation before the night is over. And that was really confusing to me because Michelle's not going to pick Olu or Martin for her top 4. So like, why would you lose sleep over what they think of you? Me personally, I would sleep like a baby knowing I'm going to send both of them home. Like, I wouldn't even feel the need to try to figure out what the true story is. Also, Olu really still thought that he had a chance at getting a rose after he snitched. Snitches do not get roses unless you're on Katie Thurston's season. And sidebar, did y'all see Katie Thurston is dating the guy who got like 19th place on her season? Ooh, she is such a train wreck right now. So Michelle confronts Martin and she directly asks him if he said she was being immature, and Martin lies. And when they're talking, Martin interrupts her multiple times and Michelle just gets rid of him, and we get the "Can I walk you out?" So this was whatever to me because Michelle needed to get rid of 4 guys anyway. So this is just my opinion about the situation. I do not think Martin is a bad person, but he was being a little fake and Michelle caught him in a lie. Michelle could not pinpoint the lie directly, but she could tell that he was lying about something. So that was enough to tell her to send him home. And then it was very fake of Martin to tell Rick that Michelle is still dealing with childhood trauma, but then turn around and have a one-on-one with Michelle and tell her that he wants her to come to his hometown. That was just so fake. At the end of the day, I just don't think Martin has the tools to relate to Michelle and just see where she's coming from on things. And then on top of that, this was his last chance to talk to Michelle and get a rose. So I think that pressure may have gotten to him a little bit. And I am by no means excusing Martin's behavior. He was wrong, he lied, but I do think the competition and the pressure of the situation caused him to act in a way that he normally wouldn't. And lastly, he made a total ass of himself in that Uber XL. Yep, it's that time, outfit of the episode. For this week's outfit of the episode, I am giving it to Michelle's rose ceremony dress. This is a very pretty dress, and as y'all know, I love the color red. This is the razzle dazzle we need. I do have one read though, and y'all may drag me. Michelle really should have done a nude lip or like a lip gloss, but she did a red lip. Y'all know I love the color red, but this week it was just too much red. If you remember last week, she had on the all black outfit, so I think a red lip would have elevated the look because it would have given her a pop of color as she was wearing all black. But this week she's in a bright red dress, she has a red lip, and she's handing out red roses. It's just too much red. I love the color red, but even I know when it's overkill. So moving on to the rose ceremony, there really were no upsets here. The only thing I was shocked about was Rodney got a rose over Rick. I had mixed feelings about Rodney getting a rose. So I was happy Rodney got a rose because watching him and Michelle on dates is fun. So I'm glad that we get to see him on another date with Michelle. But at the same time, I wanted Rick to stay because I was really curious to see what Rick would have delivered in top 4. I really feel like he would have stepped it up. Also, Rick was heartbroken when Michelle let him go. And finally, to wrap up this review, OOTE's jacket during this rose ceremony was a choice. Yikes. And that is the end of the episode and the end of this review. If you enjoyed this review, please go ahead and pound that like button, pound that subscribe button, and ring that notification bell. Have a happy Thanksgiving, and I will see you all next time. Have a good one. Bye.